That's something that you hear us talk about and practice on the farms. Farm management to include record keeping. And let me say here, farm management and record keeping, these things go hand in hand. How do farmers make decisions? What are they going to do? How do you determine the price of a crop and how to sell a pound of yam or pound of dashing? Record keeping is very important, and we are training farmers to do that. In terms of plant multiplication, rapid multiplication of planting material. When we had the drought in 1994, and in the Penville area, you know, it's very prolific for yam production, and we lost all our planting material. We had rapid multiplication, and Mr. Do Etienne, or Godfrey Etienne, he can tell you that is the way he got back into productivity of yams. Harvesting and post-harvest technology, and then these interventions and technologies, they are not an end in themselves, but they are means to an end. So the final point I have there is expansion, right? This slide you see here is work of extension in terms of a yam demonstration plot and looking at the trellis system. Now we're talking about climate change, climate variability, but you know, with farmers going out there and cutting a lot of sticks, cutting a lot of stuff, you know, what happens, that causes deforestation. So we came up with a new system, looking at trellis system, and this here is tied up with plant multiplication in terms of what you're doing. As a result of our intervention, you will believe that this picture comes from Holland or Canada. This is the work of the farmers in Belgium, and that's some of the potato tubers that we got as a result of our intervention. All right, now this one I want you to pay attention to it. In terms of the horticultural project, what are we doing with horticulture? The horticultural project is essentially to get our farmers to commercial production. That is the objective of the horticultural project. Now I want you to look at my graph here. This graph here says the support received from 5 years ago. From 2010 to 2015, we have been supporting our farmers. And you see, when we support our farmers with the little inputs, Mr. Chairman, you see there's an up in production. If it's 2014, 2015 is where it is because the year is still in progress, but we have had some challenges why it is so. There are other variables to this, but we don't have time to go into this. Next slide, please. Okay, post-Erica storm, post-tropical Erica initiative. What have we done? There's a horticultural project that concentrates on commercial farmers, but at the same time, we understand that Erica, when she passed, she was not selective. She touched everybody in her path. So we now review the objectives of the horticultural project to consider farmers at all levels. Commercial farmers, subsistence farmers, semi-commercial farmers. And the PS, he alluded to it earlier on, or the minister, but in terms of assistance to farmers, we are now in the process of giving the farmers 4,000 bags of fertilizer. So 981 root crop farmers will benefit from this initiative. Go ahead. Now, vegetables very quickly. Overview of vegetables. We have two systems of production. One system of production is the greenhouse subsector and open field subsector. Now, with the greenhouse subsector, that was introduced into Dominica in the 1980s. But currently on island, we have 210 structures, 120 farmers involved in that, and it is in the west and the south region, that is where you find more greenhouses. In terms of the percentage of greenhouses under production, 60%, so we still have an opportunity there in terms of greenhouse production. The main crops are tomatoes, please go back, please. Tomatoes, sweet pepper, lettuce, cucumber, celery. What we see here is Mr. Trevor Douglas, and in that photograph, we had a problem with tomatoes in Dominica, but farmers could not grow tomatoes at all because we had a bacterial problem, a fungal problem because of direct connection to the soil. Again, you have research going on in extension where we move from planting directly on the soil into pot culture, and that is now successful tomato production in Syndicate on the farm of Richmond Shillingford. We have other farmers also doing the same thing. Next slide, please. Okay, in terms of challenges associated with greenhouses, loss of plastic, pest and disease, lack of organization, slow adaptation of technology, appropriate technology, design and inputs. Design and input is not for the tropical conditions. Is reinforced plastic, pot culture, as I just told you, a steering committee to look at this, which is the Greenhouse Farm Association we're talking about there, introduction of new varieties, tropical design, training of farmers in greenhouse technology. Synopsis of open field production. What is open field production? Is growing it in the open. A traditional system of production that is widely practiced. It's dependent on rainfall. Factors that influence such production is topography, socioeconomic factors, weather patterns, farmer attitude. Next slide. Objective of the open field production is to ensure constant supply of vegetable to meet local demand, to train farmers in cost-reducing techniques, to assist farmers to reduce the use of pesticides, and that is very critical in terms as we look at the environment, and to promote value added. All right. Now, one person asked me a very serious question, and I want the figures to answer this. Somebody asked me, how will I convince somebody to go into root crop production? Speech is not enough, but the practicality will help you. Now, I'm working with some farmers, and I've worked with some farmers, and I'm not at liberty to break confidentiality, but in terms of root crops, cost of production for 1 acre of dashing, $8,000. Yield, 12,000 pounds. Take the liberty and do the maths. Multiply that by $1.50 as it goes now. Tanya, you spend $10,000 to do 1 acre, 15,000 pounds as yield. Do the maths. And yams as being the champion, $15,000, you can get 30,000 pounds. Do the maths. With this, it will bring dollars in the farmer's pocket. There's an opportunity in root crop production. Now let's quickly on the way forward for vegetables, root crops, etc. An umbrella organization drawing from the banana model. Ladies and gentlemen, we can't afford to miss what happened in bananas. And so in the banana model, you find there was a system in place where farmers would get certain things regularly to do what they have to do in terms of crop development. A functional pack house, functional pack houses, and I think that's forthcoming. You'll hear a little more about that. Research and development. We see Mr. Barton Clark here today, and you know the work that we've done in Tanya's. We still have to do that. In terms of research, agriculture cannot stand on its own. There has to be research and development. And notice I add research and development because it cannot only be researched. After it has been researched, it has to be implemented to develop. That's why this presentation is talking about crop development and not only crop production. When we talk about development, more items are involved in development. Introduction and adoption of new technology and market-led production. Market information. The farmers, they did it in the banana industry because the market drove them to do it. Market-led production, market-driven. Now we have collaboration between ministries. And Mr. Permanent Secretary, Mr. Chairman, this is important to me. There has to be greater collaboration between ministries. And we are starting today. As we look at that, we must understand something. In the past, I know it was Ministry of Agriculture and Trade, but Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Trade, Ministry of Education, Ministry of Health, you know it's agriculture, but all of them must come together to collaborate. When an extension officer goes out there and he convinces the farmers to produce crop A, he will give the market information, but if something happens and the crops does not sell, he takes the blows. I am saying that Ministry of Trade must come on board and collaborate effectively so that when we speak about a value chain, everyone in that chain must play his or her part. All right? Strict this one, predial larceny. And I've said this. There has to be something in place for predial larceny. Ladies and gentlemen, there are too many farmers who get involved in crop production and they do not get the time to harvest it. We have to address this because if we do all what we do, the government put its support, extension put its support, you cannot harvest your crop, and that is a deterrent. Let us understand the issue of predial larceny has to be addressed. Mr. Permanent Secretary, they have a good model in St. Lucia in terms of how they do it. When they catch you today, the case is called tomorrow, and they do what they have to do. And I am standing for that. Okay, I believe together we can do it. Together as a people, we can do it. There is hope for the sector in Dominica. There is hope for agriculture. There is hope for root crops and vegetables. And I want to leave this with you from the prophet Hosea. He says, sow to yourselves in righteousness, reap in mercy, break up your fallow ground, for it is time to seek the Lord, till he come and rain righteousness over you. Thank you very much for the opportunity. And I am asked to make a statement on passion fruits and citrus. Let's start with citrus. Over the years, the Ministry of Agriculture have put in a lot of effort into citrus production. If you visit the gardens, you will see some greenhouses at the back that deals with citrus certification. So citrus certification, when we give you a plant out there, it is a certified plant. For this year in the extension program, we're looking to do 150 acres of the different citrus varieties, okay? But again, as I emphasized when I spoke about root crops, you just cannot do it as you did it before. In terms of passion fruit, that's a crop with good potential. The North is leading on that. There is a variety, the packs for these crops, and I believe when we look at citrus, we look at root crops, we look at all the crops, there is a hope for the agricultural sector in Dominica. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Myers. Please come.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Protocol is already established. I want to, first of all, compliment the Ministry of Agriculture for this kind initiative. I think it is timely, and it's very important that those things continue. And I, as a farmer, barefoot man, it tells me that you understand that less we pack away and don't sell tet. That you give me the opportunity to come to share of my experience in farming. I'm Alex Mears. I farmed over 35 years. I'm mainly in bananas. I took on root crop after I saw the demise of the banana industry and what's going on and the costs of production and so on. And I'm now doing mainly tanias, ginger, dashing, and other root crops and so on, also pineapples. The meeting asked for my perspective for boosting agriculture in Dominica. I believe, first of all, as was already mentioned, that we need to have a clear vision. We need to know where we're going 5 years from now, what we want to, where we want to arrive at 10 years, 15 years down the line. And considering the fact where there is no vision, the people perish. We must have a workable plan in place, considering, of course, our resources. And that workable plan must not be business as usual, and it was mentioned earlier on. We cannot go now into agriculture as we used to do it in the past. We have to be innovative. We have to do it, take the best practices that is available to us. So we must have a workable plan in place, using our resources, yes. There must be a way of training our farmers. And of course, considering the younger farmers. Now, we look at the other areas of employment. You want to be a policeman, you want to be a teacher, you want to be a fireman, you want to, every other area of work, you have to go through a period of training. You have to go back to school in some cases to be trained. Only in the banana agricultural sector, that a person, and mainly those of us who have not done well at school, we have no other choice and we go into bananas, or agriculture, I mean, That cannot continue to work. We cannot be serious in agriculture if we continue like that. So we must have a school, for example, for young farmers. And we have underutilized schools that we can use our school buildings after hours, that we can train and ensure that our farmers get the proper training to go into farming. And field school, for example, for existing farmers. Just this Irish potato season, we had a field school for the Northeast. And I can tell you it was very important for me, and other farmers expressed that also, that we get the knowledge that we needed to grow Irish potato. And without that knowledge, we would not be able to be productive farmers. So I think we really need to engage, have some mechanism in place whereby we can educate our farmers, identifying certain crops that they intend to go into. In training our farmers. Now, that workable plan that we must have in place, as I said, it must not be business as usual. It must be something different. Now, we must make better use of our resources, the monies that we put into agricultural production, or that we hand over to farmers. And as Mr. Warrington mentioned earlier on, that we must have a revolving fund in place. Now, and that would be sustainable, because what happens in the past is that we get monies, we pump it down the drain, we give it to the farmers, yes, they produce, and that money done, we have to find more money again to put it back. If we have a revolving fund in place, Mr. Chairman, and charge maybe a very little interest rate of 1% or 2% for paperwork and so on, so that that money remains there and maybe grow little by little, we will have that fund that we can go back to the following year for the other crops that we have to, a revolving fund. Of course, we know that the other lending agency might question that because they want to make profits in the business, the banks and so on. But we will need to have something sustainable so that we can continue to go back to for farmers. Now, I think we need to have a revolution. We need to revolutionize our agriculture. We need to do things differently. We need to focus on things like irrigation, Mr. Chairman, mechanize our agricultural industry, so that, because at the end what we're looking for is to maximize our production, improve our productivity, and maximize production. And we cannot do it the way that we are doing it, manpower. Also, I want to make a point on the NEP that is in place. I believe there are some farmers who get assistance from that, Mr. Prime Minister. But what I think, and you asked for suggestions, so I am just making my simple suggestion. I think instead of having one farmer benefiting from that, we need to look at ways that we can have more farmers benefiting from the NEP. In that, in any crop that you embark on growing, the initial stages of growing that crop, you need more manpower, more work to be done to establish the crop. Instead of having a farmer having that worker all along, there are times that he might not even have enough work to do on his farm. Why that very same worker that is being assisted by government cannot work for other farmers, and that other farmers can benefit in the work too. So that is my initiative, and all what we will have improved production. We will have improved productivity. I can remember back in the 70s and 80s when we produced bananas then we produce more than the market that was the market that demand on our side, or quota. And what used to happen is that they used to dump the excess. Are we in that case going to dump the excess of our production? So a proper plan in place, we would envisage what we are going to do with the excess. And I believe there are a lot of opportunities for us that we can look at targeting, say, the cruise ships. And how we do that is that we will look at peeling those root crops, packaging them and peeling them. And my reason for saying that is looking at things like rice, for example. Rice is an international food, the most eaten food to my knowledge. But if any one of us had to buy rice with the shell, none of us would eat rice. But they prepare it, they peel it for us and so on. They prepare it, take the oil shell, and then you go and buy a pound of rice, and you can just take it and put it in your pot and cook. Now, if the people who are interested in buying root crops and those things get that thing already peeled, then I believe we can get benefits from that in terms of employment for our people. The peel of those root crops, you can use it for animal food and manure, and look at other ways that we could utilize it. So, Mr. Chairman, I just believe, just because a lot has been said and done, but looking at those things for the future, I believe we can make great strides in our agricultural sector, and as a result of that, we can be in a better position whereby we can be in a position to be self-sufficient in providing food for our country and cut down on the import bill that is so high in this country. I thank you very much.
Thank you very much. At this time, I would like to call on Mr. Sun from Chinese Agricultural Mission to make a presentation. Thank you.
Good morning, Honorable Mr. Prime Minister and any dear friends. And we from Chinese Agricultural Mission, and today we prepared a PPT to talk about what we can do for farmer. So now, and my team and translator Sabrina and me, and we show the point PPT.
Good morning, everyone. 2 years ago, the Dominican Prime Minister and the Chinese ambassador sent a Chinese team to 1 mile Portsmouth. And after agricultural materials and equipments are brought in, and we cleared weeds, leveled land, replaced the soil. And at that time, many people asked, what are you going to do? So as you can see, 5 acres of standardized test fields are built. And the drainage system and the river irrigation system are built. And 11 greenhouses were completed. And also a smart greenhouse was ready for use. And also bring some different types of tractors with matching equipments. And a modern agriculture station is built up gradually. And finally, in May last year, the center was officially opened. It is called Dominica China Modern Agriculture Center. The center was under the Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries, operated by Chinese Agriculture Mission and 1 project liaison officer. And there are 5 main parts of our works. It includes modern agriculture facility, improvement and maintenance, in the experiment and demonstrations, seedling cultivation and propagations, extension and training, and also agricultural machinery services. All of our works just for one objective, that is, work together with the Ministry of Agriculture to serve all farmers in Dominica. And here's a picture that shows the concept of our work. Dominica China Agriculture Cooperation Project. It works to improve and maintain the agriculture center. Based on the center, we can conduct experiment and demonstrations. So from the result of the experiment, we can get the good varieties and technologies that is suitable and feasible for Dominica. With all of this, we support farmers, and also we can get farmers' information feedback. What exactly we can assist to farmers is including high-grade seedlings and technical assistance and follow-ups. Also, agriculture machinery service, visits, and academic communication. And for some needy farmers, we can also distribute some agricultural materials. So we work every day with farmers. We assist them, and at the same time, we can get the information, agricultural information from farmers. That information is very important for us, and it's back to the project. So we can improve the center better, and so that serves the farmers better. It runs like this in a virtuous circle. And here are some photos of experiment and demonstrations. Some varieties like peppers, eggplant, cauliflowers, purple cabbage, cantaloupe, leaf vegetables, solanaceous vegetables, sweet corn, pawpaw, grapes, string beans, and also we have some high-end agriculture products like broccoli, color peppers that is very popular. And we use different agriculture techniques. And in this picture, we grafting the watermelon onto the pumpkin so that we can get better fruit even in the rain season. And effective demonstration with agriculture facilities. Here are the harvest of some vegetables by using the agriculture techniques and the facilities. Different varieties. And the vegetables we get from the experiment and demonstration are donated to welfare agencies like schools, hospitals, and home for the aged, etc. We also introduced the flowers varieties like orchids, bromeliad, seedling propagation and distribution. Last year, totally we cultivated over 259,000 seedlings of different varieties and distributed 191 seedlings to farmers in different areas. Distribution of seedlings and matching agriculture materials. In the smart greenhouse, the banana tissue culture seedling and the pineapple tissue culture seedling are maintained, and the survival rate of the banana plants is over 95%. During last year, there were 142 times of training and extensions together. Regular communication meeting with technical officers, and we training for local farmers, attending agriculture meetings with Minister for Agriculture and the farmers, and training on broccoli. In order to serve more farmers, so we assist agriculture stations to build greenhouses in different agriculture regions. So in Layo Park, in Lapling, Castle Bruce, so that farmers can get seedlings easily. Also, we assist with the school class, with the agriculture class for schools. This picture shows that we are in Kalinago territory, a primary school, and building some shed, distributing the seedlings to interest the children's interest about the agriculture. Mulch training and training on the farms in different areas, and some practical training, receive school visitors, and distribution of seedlings and agricultural materials with Dr. John C. McIntyre. And under the guidance, many farmers get good harvest. And for some vegetables, before we have to import from other countries, but now we can produce locally. Agriculture machinery service. We distributed tractors and matching equipment to different agriculture stations. And last year, over 40 agriculture machinery training has conducted, and totally 100-acre field was plowed. Training in different regions and with farmers and officers. This project has the support of both Dominican and Chinese government leaders. President Charles Severin inspecting the center, inspection by Prime Minister and other representatives, reception for Madam Speaker, and the Minister for Agriculture has made several visits. And the Permanent Secretary, Harold Gist, spoke highly of concept of modern agriculture. And we also take an active part in the agriculture exhibitions, working together with local farmers in tackling the current difficulty caused by the passage of Tropical Storm Erica. So during the storm, we repaired the river irrigation systems to ensure the safety of the tissue culture plants in the smart greenhouse. And after the storm, we assist farmers in clearing the feeder roofs and to make them to transport the agricultural products to market. And also, we visited some farms in disaster areas and distributed seedlings together with the local extension officers. And later, more seedlings will be distributed to farmers. So with Chinese Agriculture Mission, the Ministry of Agriculture, and the local farmers will continue work together to face the challenge and overcome the current difficulties to promote much needed agriculture development in the Commonwealth of Dominica. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. At this time, we would like to take some of the questions. We have some farmers in the back we have not seen or heard from you. Yes, gentleman here, please.
Okay, my name is Kenny Blanford. I'm just a regular young farmer. And something I've taken notice of is that we have a lot of gentlemen here who are, or we call them, resilient farmers. I farm, first of all, my primary reason for farming is because I love it. I grew up with it and I love it. And it helps me to take care of my family. But these gentlemen who I see, who are experienced farmers, they are in it, one, because they love it, and that's what they have known for quite a few years. And we're speaking about the future of farming. And if we are about to build the future of farming, well, all respect to these gentlemen here, when I need experienced farmers to talk to, I go pick their brains. And hats off to them for the good work that they have done and continue to do. But if we are going to speak about building the future of farming, we need to have strategic plans in place to target young people, young farmers. I am already 30 plus, and I don't see individuals in the audience who are probably around 25, 18, and are the individuals responsible and involved in the program and development of this program are looking at, earlier on you asked for suggestions. Suggestions like starting to implement the subject of agriculture in the preschools, grade K, to stimulate the young minds that how they go about developing agriculture and give them an early taste for it. The Bible says, grow up a child in the way that he should grow. So if you don't start them at that early age, and that very early age, they may not know about the benefits of agriculture. The old farmers have seen the good times in agriculture, they have experienced the good times, and they're still hanging on in there, hoping that one of those days I'm going to make it back like I make it back in the 80s, probably in bananas or whatever else crops they're involved in producing. The young man on the street does not know that. When he looks at me passing, all he sees is a dirty, hard-working, sweating individual, and he doesn't know about the benefits about agriculture. How do you stimulate his mind? How do you encourage him? How do you give him the incentive to get involved in agriculture as a very young individual? So maybe looking at introducing agriculture in a fun and practical way in the schools from the very beginning of the educational process. That is probably one of the ways that we can start doing that. And are the individuals looking at targeting those young people who are sitting on the streets every day with nothing to do? Target those people, target those individuals in any way to get them involved and inspired in some way to get involved in agriculture. Agriculture is life. Everybody who came here this morning ate, and we must eat to survive. And that is being threatened right now all over the world. And if Dominica has everything else that is needed, the water, the land, good land, so we need the farmers and the young ones. The future depends on the young ones, not the old, ready-to-retired farmers.
Thank you very much.
Hello, good afternoon.
Yes.
I'm on the mic already. Hello, I'm on the mic already.
Oh, sorry.
I'm Lynn Edwards from Wesley, and I'm one of the banana farmers. I'm farming for 37 years. I'm doing bananas all my life. I'm this only with the black sikatoka. I go into some plantains and tanyas. What I'm saying is that they gave us plant in July, the first set of tissue culture plants, 700 plants to 1 acre. Now, 3 months ago in the plants, they say everything was in place and the fertilizer was ready and the white lime and everything was ready. But to my knowledge, I grow a plot of tissue culture under DBMC, DBPL, for 20 years before I had rooted up. And you cannot give banana plants root crops fertilizer. Now I on my own take 2 trends of fertilizer to do my tissue culture, because I remember when the Germans was here, when they were doing the plants, they was in my field, and the gentleman told me every 28 days I need to give them fertilizer. I gave those plants fertilizer 2 times on my own, and only now they're sending 2 bags of 50-pound fertilizer for us to give 700 plants and root crop fertilizer. It cannot be. I'm 57 years in plant, but all my years is agriculture and bananas. So now somebody not coming to tell me that I can give banana plants root crop fertilizer. Impossible. It's very impossible. So what now I am going to do to give them this month, in 2 weeks' time again, I need to give them fertilizer. What am I going to get and what am I going to do to give them plants? If we're really interested in the banana industry, I believe we need to get up and get those men outside there. Men like Mr. Odile Valmont, men like Mr. D.L.S. Orrington. I'm not speaking about D.L.S. Orrington much. I speak about those men in DBPL that can handle the banana industry, that knows you. Right now, we need to get with the sun. We need canned fertilizer. With that long sun we get in, we need can. In 3 months' time again, we need to get some potash. If we really need to move the banana industry, we need to get up. We don't have nobody. The people in agriculture and the Minister of Agriculture, they knows nothing about the bananas. And I believe they need to go back out there and get those men that was in DBPL. Yeah, those men there. All now I have to call Mr. Odile Valmont to give me remind me of what to do, where to go. And I believe if we put those men and we put politics aside and we try to get back our banana industry, it will go. I 57 years. What am I going to do in 6 years? I want to help my grandchildren, to educate them. My children are already big. In 6 years, I'm going to sit down at home and I'm going to beg somebody or look on my grandchildren to bring me a tablet, medication. Right now, I suffer with pressure. How am I going in the field? Okay, look, in Eureka. I've lost 3 acres of banana in Eureka by the riverside. What is in place to give the farmer to help him with those bananas? We cannot only depend on fertilizer, because already 2 bags of fertilizer cannot give 700 plants at all, at no time. And what are we going to do? If Eureka, I need manpower, we need finance. It's not only fertilizer. Right now, my husband going back with his finger, he get a water cut a few months back. One of his veins cut. he have to go and do surgery. It's all myself and my son that going to handle. We need some finance to help us to move the banana. And I believe we need to get up and fight the banana industry different.
Thank you very much. Yes, sir. Right here.
Good day, everyone. My name is Lennox Fort. I'm from the CARICOM Development Fund, and I feel compelled to speak because of the comments made by the speaker before the last about the involvement of youth. We are involved in supporting the Youth Agricultural Entrepreneurs Program in St. Lucia. And I would suggest that maybe the Ministry of Agriculture could consider adapting that program here. It's really a situation where it's a combination of institutions, the St. Lucia Development Bank in collaboration with the Ministry of Agriculture, and also with the Trade Export Promotion Agency in St. Lucia come together to support a set of youth, training them, teaching them the issues of financing, record keeping, etc. The bank provides the financial support for them, and of course the government provides, in addition to the training, the land for them to plant. I think it's a model that could be considered in Dominica, and we would be happy to provide the handshake if needed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, sir. Can you pass the microphone?
Go ahead, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, I'm very happy to be here today. I'm Algernon Shaw from Wesley. I just want to speak about 2 points here perhaps today. One, before I started to speak, I want to say thanks to the Prime Minister for his assistance towards us, the Wesley Farmers Group. That was established about 2 years ago. And when the Prime Minister was informed, he helped us immediately with fertilizer, and that's what we sold and helped the farmers. And may I say now, Mr. Prime Minister, we have a revolving fund in our organization. The Wesley farmers are concerned about the road leading up to Simpa. What we realize now is that because of the drought, the Wesley farmers are leaving the dry areas and they're going up to Simpa. But we have a problem up there, the road problem. There are two main areas here, the Jackmo area and the Simpa area. It is very easy to go from Wesley through Burton on to Simpa. But because of the blockage at the higher point, we have got to ride around to Woodford Hill and enter Simpa. Sometimes farmers reach Burton, and to go to Simpa, they have to return to Maragota onto Woodford Hill and then to Simpa. I want to suggest that someone goes up there and explores that area because it's a very short road. If that road will be cut, there'll be many more farmers going up there because the bulk of arable lands are up at Simpa. The lands down the coast here are dry, and Stikatuka is playing havoc there. Secondly, I've had experience of farmers getting ill on the farms. For instance, some time ago, there's a fellow who got cut on the farm, and for months he was home. One of the objectives of the farmers group is to encourage farmers to be insured in one way or other, either health insurance or life insurance. Because what happens when a farmer goes to his farm, he falls sick, or he becomes sick, injured, and he has to remain at home for a number of weeks, even months, and there is absolutely nothing coming in. That farmer has the difficulty, especially if he has a family. So I want to recommend here today that some kind of insurance, maybe it was discussed earlier, but some kind of insurance be established so that farmers can benefit when they can no more work. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. This gentleman to my left. Yes.
Yeah, good day to everyone. I'm very thankful for this meeting. And one thing I am very, very glad for is that all the policymakers are here. I remember when I grew up as a lad, when we went to school, almost every government school had a school garden. And because of that, agriculture was introduced very early to children, and most of us who did any farming grow up doing farming, learning from the school garden that we went to. Mr. Education Minister, I am asking that you formulate some plan and that we begin to include agriculture in the school curriculum to bring children to the knowledge of what agriculture can do for a country. The next problem we have is, after most young people have gone to school, they have received their doctorates. They do not want to soil their hands any longer. And while they are doing, or while they have done and have obtained their doctorates, they have land in the middle of the road which send them to school, educating them, and the lands are vacant in the area. I have always heard that the only place $5 ever fought was in Grand Bay. I do not know how true that is. But I believe if you have obtained your doctorate, you have a degree in agriculture, what experience or what are you showing to that person who may be interested in farming? I leave Portsmouth sometimes and I go up to Wesley, and I have found out that the laziest set of young people are from Wesley. You go up, and I leave Portsmouth and try to be in Wesley by 7 o'clock to go to my farm. And when you reach in Wesley under the mango tree, you find young people already drunk with a bottle of Old Oak and a Coke on their side. Now, how can we ever improve in this country? So we need to come to the point where we realize what agriculture can do. And the other question which is bugging my mind is, Mr. Agriculture Minister, have we done an estimate or a census to find out how many serious agriculture people, farmers, are in this country? Very, very few. But if we do things to introduce to the school from kindergarten up and have a good agriculture program, because of the benefits that we have obtained or we have achieved through agriculture, I am sure we would be far, far better in the years to come. I remembered one time we had a forum in Portsmouth when the president was trade minister. And I got up and I said in that forum that if God should allow us to live 15 or 20 years longer, we may have to import food to feed our nation. And so say, so done. It is not 15 years as yet. And can you imagine buying one banana for 50 cents in Dominica? It's unbelievable, but it is true. We need to become serious about this thing and reintroduce our agriculture to the schools so that we can benefit from it. I thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yes. Hello.
Oh, yes, one more question.
Well, good
In the
afternoon.
back, please. Yes, sir.
Ian Lambert is my name. I'm with Dexia and the Multipurpose Park House, etc. I have heard from the agricultural sector a number of presentations, retraining of young persons, research and development, etc. And I've heard it mentioned from kindergarten right through. But I have heard absolutely nothing of the role that the Dominica State College can play in helping transform the agricultural sector. And I hope it was not, something left out accidentally on their part.
Thank you very much. One moment, please. One moment, please. Let's take Dexter, and then we have to go to the next presentation because of time. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman, Honorable Prime Minister. Time is of the essence. But I think the recommendation that I want to make has to do with collaboration. That I think here it is, especially Dexter. Dexter has an important role to play in the export sector. And we are in the process of implementing the Fresh Produce Act with the Bureau of Standards, and also in operationalizing the multipurpose pack houses. We have some support that is coming from the CDF. CDF is right here this afternoon. And what I would like to hear is more, how do we dovetail the programs of Dexter with that general agricultural program? Because we have targets, for instance, in terms of the free crops, dashing, plantains, and hot peppers. But I hear targets from the Ministry of Agriculture. I am not sure whether those targets are part of what we are talking about. When I hear 2,500 acres of plantains and bananas, what percent, how much of that is plantains? Because we have a program where we want to establish over 150 acres of plantains, 200 acres of dashing, and some acreages of hot peppers. How do we concretize, how do we cement that type of collaboration among the agencies and the institutions? This is something that we need to look at. And as we move forward, I also believe that a lot of what we have spoken about, the platform is in the National Export Strategy. The National Export Strategy was adopted by government, and I believe that in our planning, we need to revisit the National Export Strategy. Because all of what we have said, all of that is contained in the National Export Strategy. Thank you.
Thank you very much. At this time, I would like to call on Dr. Thomas to do a presentation on livestock.
Good afternoon to all. I think protocol has already been established. When I look at the program, I realize that the two regionals were left for last. I don't know if it was by design, but Reggie, I'm going before you. The livestock sector, and I'm going to try to summarize as much as possible, get into the meat of the presentation. All the presenters before me spoke about the issues of agriculture, and these issues such as trade liberalization, pest and disease, the need for food, the desire for people to earn more. All these affect livestock as well. And as a country, we have decided, or we have tried to come with the right mix of livestock, so that we can meet and address some of these challenges. So if I just quickly go on to the sweetest one, which is honey. We recognize that Dominica has, in terms of its flora, ideal and pristine conditions for the production of honey. We recognize that it is still marginalized, and as a ministry, we have come together with the stakeholders, the producers, the other stakeholders such as the AICAs, etc., to bring this sector to some kind of development. And so we have come together, we have developed a project that is ongoing as we speak. The Central Livestock Farm is playing a pivotal role in that project, that developmental project. We have placed at the farm a queen rearing facility, which will form the basis by which we expand the sector. Expanding this sector requires rapid multiplication of the bees, and we have not had that capacity. But right now, at the Central Livestock Farm, in collaboration with the two bee cooperatives, we are able to produce and rapidly multiply the bees and to help expand the sector. The markets exist for honey in Guadeloupe and Martinique. We still have sort of a black market for that product. The areas of agro-processing, the propolis and the other products, byproducts that can be made for honey, these are all opportunities that exist in that sector. We think it's something that can be done. It can be integrated with other forms of agriculture or tree crop production, etc. as we go forward. So honey, we think honey production, we think is an important area in terms of the expanding of our livestock production. And I think many people did not think that honeybees can be considered livestock. The vet services is responsible in part for the management of that particular insect. Also, it's very important as we go into agricultural production, the need for honeybees for pollination purposes and expanding our food production. So the small ruminant sector, when we looked at the shocks, the issues related to feed production, the rising cost of feed, we looked as a ministry at what are the livestock that can be grown effectively, that can be reared effectively with minimal cost. And small ruminants play an integral part in that, mix. The Central Livestock Farm was developed or opened in 2007. It's about 100 acres of land with the building capacity to hold in excess of 300 breeding females as related to sheep and goats. And that is placed in the northeast of the island at Londonderry. We recognize that there were some issues with feed production, the breeding material, the genetic material, and we sought to form alliances or develop programs that could address some of the issues associated with the expansion of the sector. So under this financial year, through the banana accompanying measures, we have sought to address some of these issues as it relates to the multiplication program. So we have done small ruminant production primarily using natural mating. We recognize that this is a very slow and tedious process. There are new technologies existing, and so we sought to introduce some of that technology into Dominica. And we are in the process of launching a project to look at the introduction of artificial breeding, that is artificial insemination and embryo transfer. So essentially we could purchase a fertilized embryo and introduce it into a mother. So these are some of the opportunities that exist with our farmers in terms of expanding their production quickly. The technology transfer, we use the farmer field school approach that was mentioned earlier, where we look at training the farmers in the areas of livestock production, as a means of, again, improving their production and their productivity. A lot has been said about the abattoir and the expansion of pork and poultry. In an earlier slide, we looked at the importation of the import figures from 2006 to 2012, or 2012, and we saw that upward trend as it related to the import of meat, and we are now importing near $14 million only in poultry and $4 or $5 million in pork and pork products. So we see the opportunities that exist in that sector. So the abattoir project has come along and tried to deal with some of the major issues related to the expansion of that sector. We know that there are still issues relating to the feed, and government has introduced fiscal incentives in the form of removal of VAT and import duties, all as a means of becoming more competitive, lowering the price, the cost of production, and to make us a little bit more competitive. So the abattoir program is on stream. We have just imported over 2,000 day-old chicks. They came in Friday and yesterday we got another set. These birds are going to be reared. They are being reared by farmers, and in 6 weeks we would have tested that abattoir and to be ready for production. So the opportunity there that exists as it relates to farmers in terms of getting on board on the program, producing to meet the requirements of that abattoir. Again, I raised the point, it's $14 million just in terms of poultry products, and another $5 million as it relates to pork and pork products. So the ministry is standing ready in terms of its programs to support that sector in the form of training. We have developed several training models who will get on board. We're going to be looking at farmers who are is critical, and so we are not going to be able to do all and every farmer. We would need to target our production, expand the production to meet the market demands. So the areas of certification will come in. I see Dr. John there. The areas of food safety are important as well as we get into that industry. So all these training programs will be introduced, and the farmers will benefit from these opportunities, the training opportunities. All right, so as in terms of the selection process of the farmers, all this we will deal with in terms of the targeting of the farmers, and who and what and which farmer and which area can get into production. We also have a major issue relating to farmer organizations, where we see farmer organizations getting smaller, the number of farmer organizations getting smaller and smaller. And when we did agriculture well, when we did livestock production well, we had vibrant farmer organizations. So the ministry is again, from the Livestock Development Unit, looking to promote the formation of, or encourage the formation of farmer organizations, and strengthen them, retool them if necessary, to make them stronger and more vibrant, so they can come on board with us, form clusters where necessary, to help us in developing that sector. The livestock sector, the expansion in the sector, it's an industry. There are going to be teething pains, there are going to be difficulties, but together as we form that collaborative effort, we can move that sector going forward. The poultry and Dominica is unique in terms of the OECS. It's probably one of the islands we're self-sufficient in eggs. We produce all the table eggs that we need. During the Christmas, we have shortfalls of production, but we produce enough eggs to feed our people. And that sector is worth well over $5 million when we did our analysis. And that is $5 million that is produced here and circulated among our people. It's an important sector. We continue to work with those farmers, try to mitigate against the issues that affect them, the feed, the availability of chicks. These are concerns that they have, but we continue to work as a ministry, as a department, in trying to forge ahead in terms of keeping that sector alive and going forward. We have things to do. We recognize that we need to look at the marketing strategies, etc., to ensure that there are not too many shortfalls going forward. As I speak about the issue of eggs, of day-old chicks, that is also a major concern as we expand the sector. The importation of day-old chicks out of Barbados is indeed a challenge in terms of getting the numbers that we need when we need them. The feed I mentioned already, with government's intervention in terms of trying to lower the prices. We are not producers of grain, which are the major ingredients of the feed, But in terms of the fiscal incentives that can be put in place, they have already been put in place, and as a means of lowering the price or the cost of the feed. Okay, so the production, we will recommend particular size of operation as a means of ensuring that there's competitiveness. We want as many young people as is possible to get into that sector. I mean, when we look at some of our poultry farmers, the average age is 50, and that's putting it modestly. So we need to bring new people on board, and I've heard of a number of initiatives where we can get we can try at the school level, at the college level, where we can get people on board to be part of that important sector, that new thing, that abattoir that is coming on board, and the expansion of this sector. Okay, so I just want to touch a little bit on what are the capacities of the abattoir, so we understand what we are dealing with. The abattoir we have constructed will do 50 pigs a day and do up to 500 birds an hour. So this is the capacity of that facility, and these are the opportunities that will exist as we get our producers on board to meet the demands of that abattoir. I think the Honorable Minister made the point we need to look at local, buying local. We spoke a lot about the NCDs, the communicable diseases, and some of those that are nutritional issues that are associated with some of the things that we import. And here it is, there's an opportunity to collaborate, Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Health, Ministry of Education, to put forward a product, put forward something that is uniquely Dominican, or is Dominican, and that we can reap the benefits, some of the major benefits that exist from that investment. By way of summary, I got this little model where it looks at your beliefs, your potential, the action, and the results. And if you begin anywhere you begin, you end up with some level of success. Together, I think we can do it. I think post Erica, if I may, I don't think all was not lost. We lost a few animals, yes, but the sector is intact. We can still produce. We did not lose many of our buildings. We lost, as I said, we lost a few animals. So we can rebuild together. The ministry, the government of Dominica. I think the government of Dominica has displayed extreme support for the sector, and trying to get it to go forward. So farmers out there listening to my voice, I think we can do it. We can rebuild Dominica. And rebuilding it, but bearing in mind some of the issues related to climate change, and being able to do the disaster risk management measures that we have all spoken about. So we want to do it together, but we want to do it in a smart way, in the right way, looking at some of what we have spoken about. So with these few words, I'm sorry I had to rush a little bit. I rest my case. Thank you.
Okay, in the interest of time, we move right ahead into the oil presentation. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everyone. I just take the opportunity to express sympathies to those families in the bay oil industry who lost their loved ones and family through Tropical Storm Erica. I'll go straight into the areas that we can look at development outlook for the bay oil industry. In looking at that, we have three major points that we have to look at. We need to increase some resilience into the whole industry because of the unforeseen market forces that exist, some socio-economic challenges that exist with families, young people getting involved into the industry, and some of the environmental challenge which we see was very prominent in the passage of Tropical Storm Erica. Also, while we are doing that, immediately the bay oil industry needs some recovery. There needs to be some sort of compensation, some assistance and support to the farmers to allow them to continue their role playing in the industry. And while we are doing that, we look forward towards economic value adding in the long term. The bay oil industry requires serious resilience, and it has been there for over 100 years. You can go there and find bay trees that are over 100 years old, and that helped to contribute to some of the problems that we encountered during the storm, because these plants were so aged that they were not able to resist the might of the extra water that is going on the very shallow lands that they were found, especially in Petit Savan. So what we want to do is to be able to integrate some principles of sustainable development, invest in traditional and non-traditional crops, and also to adopt some public and private sector initiatives that look at the industry. The reason why we want to mention some public-private sector partnership is because you may not have heard bay oil discussed in forums of agriculture in the past. And this is maybe one of the first forums that you hear bay oil is being featured, because the government has recognized through the Ministry of Agriculture that bay oil contributes a significant portion of the agricultural economy in Dominica, and it is not just looked as a manufactured product, bay oil, but it looks at the whole agronomy aspect of bay trees, bay leaf, and what we need to do now is to introduce some new crops that help to supplement the bay oil industry. There is over 40 years of relation with the people who buy bay oil from the bay oil industry in Dominica. There's a long-term relationship in the market, and in order to capitalize on the opportunity existing in the market, we need to introduce new crops. There has been a 30% loss in the bay oil industry because of two major threats over the past 10 years. One of it was the introduction of the Gova rust disease that widespread and caused a 30% loss in the industry. And the second thing was a scare from methyl eugenol, one of the constituents of bay oil, which caused people to think that it is carcinogenic, and therefore they were afraid to utilize the bay oil in the international market. Dominica produces 60 to 80% of the world's supply of bay oil, and we are actually the leading bay oil producing country in the world. And therefore, we have an opportunity to build on that. The aged farmers' age right now is over 57 years. And therefore, a lot of the young persons who were involved in the industry have grown to an age where they can no longer participate. The risk exists now with the passage of Tropical Storm Erica, where you had over 244 acres of bay oil plantations being damaged. On top of that, we had over 250 acres that have been abandoned. So we're talking about close to 500 acres that's on the standstill right now. The recommendation is to see how we, as government, can provide some support to rehabilitate those fields, to re-establish some of those fields, and to introduce new technology, especially in the distillation of the bay. The other part that is important is that we have lost the capacities in distillery across the island. 9 distilleries were damaged as a result of Tropical Storm Erica, and also the main distillery of the cooperative was also completely destroyed. These investments need to be replaced. We estimate that the replacement cost for that would be around $1.5 million in terms of building a new distillery or assisting the individual farmers across the country. We're talking around 22 farmers we could target that could get at least $15,000, and they'll be able to rebuild, reset up, and repair some of the existing stills that are across the country so that we can build back the distillery capacity that is there. Hopefully, we are able to look to the future, and there's the potential where, as partners, government coming together with the various players in the industry, there are 2 main players, one who is shipping into UK market, around 20% of our supplies, and the other 80% which goes to the US market that has a very long-term relationship. Those markets will only accept new oil and more bay oil on the basis that you have additional new crops. So the whole strategy is to see how we can introduce other new oil crops. Once you introduce new oil crops, the market is willing now to accept additional supplies of bay oil. So we can go into a win-win situation. Some of those new crops that we could target is things like sweet basil, patchouli oil, and there's a famous oil, one of the most expensive oil in the world is the ylang ylang oil that we could introduce because it will help in terms of our agroforestry. It can grow in combination with coffee, with cocoa, and all our other tree crops. Most of those things are possible. The opportunity is there for farmers to invest in it. They can be, like bay, very passive in the agricultural sector, meaning that the amount of energy and intensity that you require in order to invest in those crops is not as large as you have in root crops, vegetable crops, etc. So while farmers are still doing their regular agriculture, you could also invest in those passive crops, particularly ylang ylang and the bay itself. So without much ado, I'd just like to encourage the bay oil farmers and many other farmers. You could use bay as your hedgerows on your farm. They are very good as buffer zones across the river. Once you plant those crops, you can harvest something out of it, because bay now can go as much as $100 a pound of bay oil. And it is being given to the farmers now at $57 to $64 a pound. But the potential lies for that amount to go as $100 a pound. So without much ado, I'd just like to thank you and express sympathies again to all the bay farmers who have significant loss, and I thank you.
Thank you very much. At this time, I would like us to call on the Honorable Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit to give the closing remarks. Our time is up. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Let me say good afternoon to everybody. And in a special way, I would like to recognize the reps from IECA and FAO and CARDI and the CDF, the Aid Bank and the EU, and of course our Chinese friends. I want to say to Mr. Louis that I will have to speak to Mr. Edison James about the ticket to London, because he is the only Prime Minister, former Prime Minister alive, who knows about it, so I will have to ask him about that. Let me say to you, my friends, that we have come here this afternoon today in a serious engagement with farmers and stakeholders. I give you the assurances that this is not the usual talk shows that we have in consultations around the world and around the globe. And every point that you have made has been duly noted and will be considered in the overall review of the government's strategy on agriculture. I want to make a few general and specific points. I've been hearing a lot of talk about youth and agriculture. And I must say that every government we've had has had various programs targeting youth in agriculture. But I have a few questions to the public. How many, we the farmers, how many of our children are farmers? That's point one. Point two, how many of us have backyard gardens at our homes in Dominica? Another question is, how many of us who have received scholarships from governments, who have done various degrees in agriculture, have farms, are producing, are growing crops? If we have medical doctors as farmers and we who are trained in agriculture do not have farms, then what do we expect to have? So it's an important question in the whole spirit of introspection and being candid that we must ask those questions. The other issue is that I believe, in my respectful view, that there are a number of young people who I see across the country who are involved in agriculture. I travel the length and breadth of Dominica and I see a lot of young people involved in agriculture. My view is this, that we need to organize them and focus our attention and resources to those who are in it. And those who are in it will get the support, then those who wish to get involved will get involved. But I don't think it is wise for us to spend our time on those who do not want to get involved. Let us focus on those who are involved. Let us build capacity. Let us help them. Let us help them grow. Let's expand their farms. Allow them to make money and become rich so that the country can benefit from this. We have, for example, a young man from my constituency who was living in the United States in the person of Jeffrey Bruni, who has come back utilizing new technologies. This is a young man. He's not 70 years old. He's not 60 years old. And the thing is that we have to identify those young farmers. My friend who spoke earlier was a young farmer. In my own constituency, then many young people were involved in agriculture. But unless we let people understand that agriculture is everybody's business, and that we have to have a positive outlook about agriculture. If every time we speak as a nation about agriculture is in a negative way, then what socialization are we providing for our children and young people? If every time we speak negatively about agriculture, then who is going to want to get involved in agriculture? I am a self-sufficient farmer. I sell eggs, I sell limes, I sell plantains, and I can introduce to the Ministry of Agriculture the 6-week variety of sweet potato. Especially post-storm, these varieties are very important. You harvest in 6 weeks. So as I have broilers, I have no less than 160 lime trees planted and harvesting from those lime trees now. So the young persons who my friend from Portsmouth, Mr. Cornell, spoke about who are on the block, it is they who have to take themselves off on the block. I cannot do it for them. We have to preach responsibility in the country. We have to speak about individual responsibility in the country. And unless we tell people, you have a responsibility yourself, first and foremost, we're going to be in problems. And I want to make this point to us. The other issue is that I want us, once we agree on what we'll be doing, how we'll be doing it, and who is going to do it, that we all keep to our part of the bargain. I say to farmers, you call for financing. We put in place 2 facilities at the aid bank for farmers. One at a 0% interest rate. So if you took $20,000, it was at a 0% interest rate. The second facility which we placed at the aid bank was a 50-50 arrangement. If you took $10,000, $10,000 would be a grant from the government, and the other $10,000 would have been at a 2% interest rate. The problem you always have with these facilities is that a large number of beneficiaries or persons who have contracted loans do not turn back to make their commitments. And therefore the revolving aspect of it cannot be achieved, because if who has received has not paid back, then your next door neighbor farmer may not have the ability to borrow. So we have to, and we prepare to revisit and to continue the program. It had to be halted because we have to wait for some funds to get into this fund so that people can come back and borrow. So we have to keep to our side of the bargain. The same thing goes to farmer organizations. If you come to the government and you contracted a loan arrangement, you have to repay so that another person can benefit. We have provided loans to DAPEX in an amount of $400,000 to buy produce from farmers. We have provided funds to Dexia to have bridge financing to hucksters, where hucksters will come and say, I want $15,000 because I have to buy produce. Dexter will give it to you on behalf of the government at a 0% interest as bridge financing too, so you could buy from the farmers. And so there are opportunities, I can tell you from my own personal experience. There are opportunities in agriculture. And I think it's important that the Ministry of Agriculture develops a better working relationship with farmers. We cannot be unmindful to the criticisms that farmers are meting out to us. And we can't be arrogant about it because we have a responsibility to them. We are answerable to them. They are our employers. And I think there has to be a level of mutual understanding and mutual respect. We heard on the point that Dillis Warrington made this morning. So we have to ensure that there is this mutual respect. I'm happy to see the enthusiasm from the presenters. I would like to see that enthusiasm carried through, not only here, but throughout the months and years to come. Because passion is important if we're to achieve anything. It can't be just a job. It has to be a vocation. It has to be a passion. We have to want to do it, and we have to love what we do in order for us to see the kind of results that we would like to see in this country. The consumers of Dominica, you want to reduce the food import bill? It is we who caused the bill to be high. Government does not import any food item but for itself. So it is we who go to the supermarkets and buy the produce. So if we go to the supermarkets tomorrow or today and we say, look, I want more local stuff there, and you're in fact buying it. Because I can tell you from my experience, the local business community are prepared to support agriculture. And they have been supporting agriculture. The supermarkets, you go to every supermarket in Dominica, you will see local produce. It is left to us, the consumers, who have to decide whether we buy it or whether we don't buy it. So the decision to bring down the food import bill is in our hands. What we have done in respect to poultry and pork, we're setting the platform for us to take advantage and to reduce the high import bill on pork and poultry products by the construction of the abattoir. And we have a whole program to roll out in terms of direct support, both financial and technical, to farmers who are interested in maintaining their farms and also getting involved in it. But we have to be careful. We have strangers here, so I don't want to say this too loudly. That when we give you the birds to take care of, you can't come and tell us money could eat them. You can't tell us, a dog came in and dog ate all the 200 birds. We have to be responsible, and we all have to account. It is not only the Prime Minister who must account. Every one of us has a responsibility and a duty to account once we receive something. So let us understand this. I have been on a mission of encouraging communities to form farmers' groups. We got one in Calibishi, and I took note. Ms. Nixon, I have taken note of this, and I'll get back to you for your people, as we've done in the past. Wesley, we've gotten farmers groups in Cochrane, in Bells, in Penville, in Vekas. I saw my friend earlier in Paybush. Yes, he's right there. So we've been encouraging farmers groups because it's important for us to have farmers groups so we can share experiences, share knowledge. But I believe too that the Ministry of Agriculture and the staff of the Ministry of Agriculture have to be more nimble in its dispensation of its duties. And you heard Mr. Thomas from the Dexia. We have to be able to supply the data required on exactly how many acres of X amount of things we have planted. Who are the farmers? Where are they located? So we have that information readily available. And I find too often we do not have that information readily available. And how are we going to know our capacity to supply the external markets if we do not have a database? Where has AIMS gone? The government invests in a number of programs along with our partners, and they just disappear. So I think we have to put on the table, Mr. Permanent Secretary and Mr. Director of Agriculture, all of these programs that we have invested in. What is the status of those investments? What is the status of those programs? And to see which ones we can revive and resuscitate to make a contribution. Because it was all part of a strategy. These were all part of a plan. And if elements of the strategy are not carried through, we're going to have a problem in terms of the results. And therefore, we have to be mindful of this. The farmers are doing their part. It is difficult work. The issue of farm labor must be spoken about. Nobody spoke about farm labor. There's no way we can survive as farmers with the level of lack of productivity and understanding from those who provide labor on the farm. Foremen come to work if you, first of all, they don't have a file. So they have to borrow your file. They file the cutlasses on the job. Then in the usual storytelling business, when black people giving stories, you have to pay attention to them full time. So we giving stories, and with the advent of talk shows, unless the talk shows don't end, nobody is doing work in Dominica. So we have to change our approach to things, and we have to look at ourselves rather than pointing the fingers and so forth. So the question is, living here today, what are some of the things I have to commit myself to or recommit myself to? As the Prime Minister, as the Cabinet, as the Minister, as the Division of Agriculture, as DEXA, as the Aid Bank, you the farmers, you the stakeholders, what is it I have to recommit myself to? All I'm saying to you is this. When this government talks about agriculture, we are serious about agriculture. And I believe that we can achieve much more in agriculture if we remain positive, focused. There is a reduction in partisanship in our approach to agriculture. Too many times, agriculture is too important to be muddied with political discourse. This is about our life, our survival, our daily bread. It is about the future of the country. It's about the health of the country and our children. And we talk about obesity. Why should a mountainous country with this fauna and flora and all these fresh fruits and vegetables be anywhere in any top list of obese people in the world? Why should it be? I mean, yes, we are more affluent now than we were 15 or 20 years ago. But we have to go back to the basics. We must not forget the basics. You go to people's homes and everybody has cut every single tree down, including the fruit trees and they build a home. But nobody plants back a fruit tree. Nobody has a little seasoning at the back of the yard. And then we take the bohayo and the sazon and then just pour it in food, and then that's when we cook. No fresh seasoning in the food we cook these days. Because our cupboards are so filled with all sorts of imported seasoning. And then we complain about obesity. We have to address those things. Our school feeding programs. Why should we be having imported food items on the table for our children? Why must there be always dumplings? Why can't there be, a banana pie or something? A plantain pie? Or yam pie? I can share the recipes, with the schools if they want me to. But seriously, my dear friends, we have to commit and recommit ourselves to the national development of our country. Too much negative talk permeating our society and our time. We do not know how long we are on earth, and therefore we have to be positive. The Bible says that if you think positively, you will do positive things. If you think negatively, you will do negative things. I keep practicing for my job after politics, I'm trying to keep true to that and so on. But rest assured, my friends, that we came here to seriously engage you in a very sincere discussion. And that's why I sat there attentively and intently and listened to you and took some notes of the specific criticisms which you have placed on the shoulders of the government. And we have no hard feelings towards the criticism. We came here to be open, to be frank, to be honest, and we live here as a united people, focused on our development, focused on creating jobs in our country, focused on bringing foreign exchange in our country, focused on reducing the food import bill, and in so doing, by ensuring that those involved in this agriculture business, it is hard work, but they can make money. Because we need them to make money. If they don't make money, then it's not going to benefit any one of us. But I believe that there has to be a greater commitment on all stakeholders' side. And the government takes its responsibility, and we'll take our blows where our blows are required, but we have almost take responsibility. We cannot project everything to the government. Because as the Minister of Finance, I can only give that which you have put in the Treasury. So if you put $5, that's what I have to share. You understand? And therefore, we have to be mindful of the demands of the government. I took note of the fact that my friend, Mrs. Edwards, mentioned that she got root crop fertilizer for bananas. I mean, you know, I hope it was a genuine error. So I won't elaborate on this, but it's a serious point. And I think we have to, you know, if we have the banana recultivation program, we have to have people specifically assigned to the various tasks. And I'm saying publicly that if the officer in the Ministry of Agriculture, Permanent Secretary, because I don't get involved in administration and public service, but how can you have a consultation and the person who the taxpayers are paying as a banana officer is not here? I've been asking this question for a number of years, and the public service is not listening to me, so I have to now say it publicly, because the Bible says that if a friend has a problem, you talk to him privately. If he doesn't listen, you go to his priest, and if he doesn't listen to his priest, then you go publicly with it. I have done all of those things now, so I am here before you telling you publicly about this thing. And I think that we need to get people who are passionate about these things and assign them to the farmers, so that the error which Ms. Edwards pointed out there that she experienced should not happen in the future, if we have people who are committed and diligent with these things to get things done. Because this storm has left us with a task. I am not daunted by this task. I am motivated by this task. But it can't be left to the government alone. Each one of us must play our part. And those who are not prepared to work for national development, you may have to find employment somewhere else. Because the taxpayers do not have the resources for people to not function properly. So let us rest assured that I am here as a strong advocate for agriculture. I believe in agriculture. And I believe that if we work diligently, we can see more benefits coming from agriculture. And in the cabinet, we have several people who are farmers. You know, Peter says that Kelva doesn't grow anything, so he can't. You know, he doesn't have even a cochlear planted anyway. You know, but Johnson Drygo, we have Cassius, we have Ivor Stevenson, Dr. Mark plants a few dash in Providence. You say, Dr. Darrow fishes from time to time. You know, so we have ministers who are involved in agriculture. And we do it on as a means of exercise, but you have the plentiful and you're able to sell to the markets and so forth. So let us live there, and I'm hoping that there can be a follow-up, so where all of the discussions would have been collated, reviewed, and come back to the farmers. So we have to come back to the farmers and say, this is the report emanating from this consultation, this is the action plan, these are the targets, and this is your specific role as farmers in the process. So let us not just take notes and then go back to our ministries and then say we had a good consultation, and then the farmers cannot see a document coming out of it. So, Permanent Secretary, you have your task cut out for you to put this together, and I am more than willing to come back to meet with the farmers so we can go over the strategy, see where we can refine it, and have this as a blueprint. Now, the minister has indicated, and I agree with him, that we did not come here with a blank slate. There are a number of programs which were not spoken about that are ongoing. So we don't want to belabor the point. We really wanted to hear from you specifically as to what are the recommendations, the straight recommendations. And I want to thank you profusely for your sincerity. But this is not the end of the consultation. Feel free to indicate to your extension officers or through the Ministry of Agriculture some of the recommendations which you have. But this is a starting point. It's important for us to engage each other. We cannot run away from consultations. But I want to say to the farmers that we have your back. This is about our country and agriculture. For me and for the government, is the most important aspect of our national development. And do not let anybody tell you otherwise. I'm saying to you that the government attaches priority number one to agriculture. And we will never be unwavering. If you want people to criticize us about why are we staying in bananas, why are we going to spend all this money buying this plantless from France, just leave this alone. I do not want to ever see this country, whether I'm in government or out of government, having to import bananas for us to eat. We must continue to produce bananas in Dominica and plantains to feed ourselves and to feed our brothers and sisters in the Caribbean. And that's our commitment. But I want to say to the consumers finally, to reach my point, that when we go to the supermarkets, we must ask for the local chicken. We must buy the local produce. We are producing and selling broccoli to the supermarkets. Ask for the local broccoli. The cauliflower, ask for them. We have for the Chinese support the various varieties of bell peppers. The white, the purple, the red, the yellow, the green, with all sorts of varieties of bell peppers. Ask, ma'am, which one was produced in Dominica? Show me, please. And when she shows you the one for Dominica, you grab it and you tell her, thank you very much, and you go and you pay it, because you are ensuring the sustainability of your jobs and the economy of Dominica. I pray God's continued guidance on you, the farmers, working so diligently, so diligently. And it's not easy. There are difficulties with farms, with diseases and pests, and we have to continue working together. The Ministry of Agriculture will not put Black Sigatoka under current management if we do not get the cooperation of farmers. You cannot want Black Sigatoka to go away if you're refusing to allow the people to come on your farms to assist you in managing it. So there has to be an understanding. I understand, farmers, that you have several decades of experience of growing food. But we have to understand that the new technologies that have been developed, we have to see how we can marry them, how we can cause them to work if we're to increase production and produce for the markets. Because the markets are demanding many things. When we started off with cutting a bunch of bananas and putting it on the geese boat, now it is more difficult to take your bananas than to have a child. The kind of details you have to go with on the farm, is very difficult, very challenging. So I have great regard and admiration for farmers in Dominica and farmers elsewhere. Your job is one that's ordained by the Almighty, and of course, always your reward will be when all of us go before Him, at the end of time. And I'm sure He would recognize your efforts in feeding the nation. Feeding the nation is important. But let us be positive. There's just too much negative talk in this country. And then we wonder why our children are more wayward than before. Because if all they hear in this society is negative talk and attacks and all these things, who does it benefit, really? That if we believe that we have to be maiming each other every single day, where we have a major task of rebuilding Dominica after Tropical Storm Erica, I do not see how people could have time other than focusing on national development if we truly love this country of ours. And so, thank you for coming. Thanks for your contribution. We respect your contribution. And this is why I made it very clear to the Ministry of Agriculture. We're not going to engage you in any confrontation or argument. You make a point, even if your point may not necessarily be true or correct, we have noted it, and maybe one-on-one we can clarify with you the point and so on. This is about listening, taking notes, assessing what has been said, evaluating what has been said, putting it as part of the program strategy, come back to you and say, these are the points you've raised, this is how we can factor it into the consideration, this is how we can utilize your recommendations, and this is your responsibility as farmers. This is the Ministry of Agriculture responsibility, this is the Cabinet's responsibility, and ensure that we can have it going. I think, if we do those things, we can go a long way. Here it is, and we have so many partners here. We have CADI here at the highest level. We have the CDF here. We have FAO here. We have the Chinese mission there. We have ICA there. We have the European NAO's office representing the EU there. We have the partners who are prepared to work with us. The Aid Bank has been doing a sterling job in providing financing to farmers. So we have the partners there. We have the Standards Bureau there represented at the highest level. So we have people there, the Director of Trade, Dex said, they all are in one place. It's a matter for us to consolidate those expertise and resources to the benefit of all of us in Dominica. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable.